Hello friends and welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. I am your host Tom Downey. Let's dive into some Cowboys rumors, and first up, one of the big things everyone's talking about, what the hell's going on with Terrance Williams? Is he going to be out again this week? I'll give it 2 stars because right now this whole situation is a mess. First off, Williams misses some practices late last week, doesn't come to the game in week 4. The Cowboys and Williams, though, were on the same page. And Garrett had all this week and even last week cited off-the-field stuff for Terrance Williams. Now today, Garrett says, oh, he's dealing with a foot injury. Well, which one is it? Is it both? What is going on with Terrance Williams? This is a guy that never misses games and never misses practice. He always plays through whatever problem he has. Now he's missing them all together. He returned this week, missed some practice again, then was working on the side as well this week. The absence is not reportedly connected to his offseason arrest, but he's gone from wide receiver 2 on this Cowboys team, in terms of outside guys, to the absolute bench. So what should Dallas do with T-Will? Type K for keep, type D for dump. I would love to trade him. I don't know what NFL team wants Terrance Williams. You save no money by cutting him. Even with the suspension, all you would save is the games that he was suspended for in terms of salary. I guess you're just going to keep him on your bench for the rest of the year, but at a certain point, it's like, why even bother have this guy on the roster? Yeah, you're not going to save any money, but we're getting to the point where you might as well bring up somebody else, have somebody else on this roster, because T-Will just isn't contributing at all right now. As I mentioned, folks, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Sign up today at chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Cowboys120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Put down $100, they'll give you $120 for free for a grand total of $220 to bet with on BetDSI if you use promo code Cowboys120. All right, more receivers. Is Dez Bryant not going to come back to the Dallas Cowboys? If you ask some of the Cowboys beat writers, this is really 4 stars. I'll give it 3 for now. Ed Warner, Clarence Hill, and then David Moore, the Dallas Morning News, all said there's no chance it's going to happen. But I think that Dez Bryant showing interest for the first time with that tweet that he had earlier this week makes it at least a slight chance. And it is kind of saying there's a chance. We're kind of in that realm of possibility of like maybe a 2% chance. I would be surprised if it went down. I think it's more likely than what it was a week or 2 weeks ago, but it's still not very likely at all. The team isn't really considering the possibility, and here's the big reason why. When you get divorced, typically you don't go back and remarry your ex-wife or husband. That just typically doesn't end well for either party involved. So I think the Cowboys need a Dez Bryant type at receiver. I think that you could find a role for Dez Bryant if he's willing to take a smaller one and take less money, of course. But I don't know if the Cowboys front office and coaching staff wants Dez Bryant in that locker room at all right now. So I don't think it'll happen. I'll say there's a very minimal chance, but I would be surprised if it went down. Folks, trying to get to 5K subscribers on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. Already passed the 3K mark. 5K is the next milestone. So if you like the Cowboys, you got to subscribe at youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. All right, defense time. David Irving, is he in better shape? Well, good news on this front. It certainly does seem that way. I'll give this one 4 stars, because that's what Tyron Crawford says. That's what it looks like at practice. David Irving, remember, he had the offseason weight issues earlier this year. That's not the case right now. He's in great shape. Was actually down below 300, I believe. Tyron Crawford says he's in way better shape. And by the way, peak David Irving gives the Cowboys a deadly defensive line. Now, I don't think he's going to be peak David Irving in week 5. I think that's just asking too much of a guy that's been away from actually playing football for half a year now. He missed the last half of last season too. So it's been a while for Irving. I'll temper the expectations, but it does seem like, yes, he's in good shape on that end. All right, more defensive line talk. Could DeMarcus Lawrence win Defensive Player of the Year? It's certainly a possibility. I'll give it 2 stars. And Lawrence has been fantastic so far this season. Leads the NFL in sacks. We can bring up his bio card as well later on. He's on pace for 22 this year. He should be among the frontrunners for the Defensive Player of the Year award. However, knowing the way that they vote, knowing the way that the voters evaluate, I still think it's probably going to be Khalil Mack who's from. But Tank's been great this year. 21 tackles is tied for the lead among defensive ends. 8 tackles for loss is second. And the 5.5 sacks actually leads the NFL behind a really, really good group here. Tank, of course, at number 1. J.J. Watt looks fantastic. Khalil Mack, who has been so dynamic for the Bears. Knowing the way that the voters operate, I think Mack is your front runner. But DeMarcus Lawrence should definitely be in that minimum top 5 discussion. He's been that good. Now, as I mentioned, Tank is on pace for 22. I doubt he gets there. He's not going to have 3 sacks every fourth game. That's just not how the NFL tends to work. But how many sacks will DeMarcus Lawrence have this season? I think he finishes around 15, and if so, you take that every single year because that is fantastic production. It's really among the best production. And by the way, it means Tank's going to get paid in a big, big way this offseason. Break open the checkbook for that man. He deserves it. All right, some fun ones now on our Cowboys Rumors Roundup. Are the Cowboys America's team? Well, this one's 4 stars. It's a no-brainer. Don't let anyone tell you guys otherwise. The Cowboys are still the most watched team in the NFL. Of the top 10 games so far this year, the Cowboys have 4 of them, and no team has more than 2 in the top 10. The Cowboys have the number 1 most watched game. That was Cowboys-Panthers at over 23 million people. Week 3 against the Seahawks is number 2 with 22.2 million. The Cowboys-Giants primetime game is number 5. And Dallas versus Detroit, which wasn't even a national game, checked in at number 9 with 18 million people. Look, you become America's team when you're the most watched team, when you're the most loved, and when you're also the most hated. That sums up the Cowboys to a T. For the top 9 most watched games, yeah, that's America's team, folks. Speaking of America's team, do you want some awesome America's team gear? Well, we can hook you up with some t-shirts and some hats. DM me on Twitter if you want the details at WhatGoingDowney. We get hooked up with one of our sponsors. They'll provide the t-shirt and hat. And then once we get to 20 of you guys who sign up for the shirt and hat, we'll send one of you lucky winners some Cowboys tickets. So again, DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney if you want those details. All right, deep breath here for this one. How about a Le'Veon Bell trade? Could that happen? Absolutely not. Fake news. Fansided once again coming up in the clutch with a terrible, terrible idea and rumor here. The Steelers are shopping Bell in trade talks. That much we know. Now, Fansided claims that it makes sense to bring in Lev Bell and add him with Zeke Elliott because the Saints do it with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. Why can't the Cowboys do it, right? It actually makes very little sense. And in fact, I'm going to change this not to fake news. This is the fakest news. Yes, the Cowboys do need more guys around Dak, more players that can be dynamic. The Saints limit Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram's touches. Why would you do that with Zeke or Bell? They are both true workhorse backs. They're going to eat into each other's touches. And oh, by the way, you can't afford Lev Bell long term. The worst possible roster construction you could ever do is have 2 of the highest paid halfbacks in the NFL. And why would you give up a second-round pick for a rental? By the way, their trade package was a second-rounder and Terrance Williams. Why would either team do that? It doesn't make any sense. The Cowboys, yeah, you get rid of T-Will. Why are you trading a second-round pick for a half-year rental of Lev Bell? That doesn't make sense for Dallas at all because you can't afford to re-sign him long-term. And if you're the Steelers, why would you want T-Will? He's not very good right now. And oh, by the way, they have James Washington, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Antonio Brown. Why would you want another 4th receiver who's going to get, 2 catches a game? Doesn't make sense at all. This one is absolutely fake news. Lev Bell is not coming to the Dallas Cowboys, folks. If you guys want your own awesome t-shirt like this one, get one at Mizzen and Main. Comfortable.af is the website, and the URL does check out. You will not find a more comfortable dress shirt than a Mizzen and Main shirt. And oh, by the way, they're made in America, too. All right, folks, once again, I am Tom Downey. You can follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. We're past, the quarter mark of the season now, so let's take you through the Cowboys schedule. Of course, we'll start things off with the games that have already happened because, well, duh, right? Things have been inconsistent. I think that's the best way to describe this Cowboys schedule so far this year and their play on the field. The Week 1 loss to Carolina, that was disappointing. I thought they were going to win that game. The offense was a disaster. The defense, though, was fantastic. Frankly, the defense overall has been really good this year. The Giants game, don't let the 7-point score fool you. It was a much more of a dominant performance by the Cowboys. The Giants were not really around. They had a late garbage time score. Seattle was a real disappointment. Again, the offense could not move the football. The defense has been fine. Offense has struggled. They did bounce back, though. And maybe what was a bit of a lucky win, against the Detroit Lions. Brett Maher drills that game-winning field goal. The Cowboys escape with the winner. Lions 26-24, leaves them at 2-2, on pace for a classic 8-8 year under Jason Garrett. Moving ahead now to the rest of the season, Week 5 at the Houston Texans, and this is, of course, the game that's coming up, and it's going to be, I think, a good one. It's Sunday Night Football. The Texans are actually favored by 3 points in this one. Over-under set at 45 right now. Sunday Night Football in Houston. It's the in-state rivalry-ish. And oh, by the way, if you also want to include a little dig at Houston Texans fans, just tell them that the Houston just wants to be like Dallas because even the Texans logo has the Cowboys logo inside of it. We'll take it out to some more upcoming games and kind of discuss what this looks like. We'll get to my prediction in a future show. I'm not feeling too confident, though, in the Dallas Cowboys. The Jags in Week 6, that's going to be a home game. That's tough, though. And in reality, I think there are actually some similarities with this Cowboys and Jacksonville team. Both teams have very good defenses. Sometimes if you play at quarterback and a really good ground game, the Cowboys' offensive line, though, is better. Home game makes it easier, but I kind of lean towards Jacksonville in this one. I don't believe in the Redskins, even on the road. Sign me up for Washington winning that game. At home against the Titans in Week 9, coming off the bye, you would hope that the Cowboys find a way to win that one because they should, right? Yes, Tennessee's been very good this year, but they've had a lot of close wins. That's a toss-up game. I think, again, you're probably looking at around a 2-2 mark through those 4 games. Maybe you lose one you should, maybe you win one you shouldn't. Either way, you're sitting there after Week 9, 4-4. All right, moving ahead now to the latter half of the season, and this is a really tough gauntlet here. You go on the road to Philly, who I think will be clicking more so than they are right now in Week 10. On the road against Atlanta, who, yes, they're banged up on defense. They're still a good football team. Then you host the Redskins in Week 12, host the Saints in Week 13, which you kind of get to that November schedule. I don't like 3 of those games. Eagles, Falcons, Saints, those are tough. Maybe you can steal one against the Falcons if their defense continues to have issues. Again, I don't believe in the Redskins, but I think you're looking at one win as a possibility there. All of a sudden, you're sitting there with 5 wins with 4 to go. That's not good. Speaking of the Redskins, the odds to win the NFC East kind of favor Washington a little bit here. The Eagles, of course, are still the odds-on favorite via BetDSI, -132. Redskins at +300. Cowboys +350. Nobody believes in the Giants, +1,200. Again, Giants are just not a good football team right now. Now, if you want to bet on these odds, we can get you hooked up there. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys120. Get a 120% deposit bonus. What that means is put down $100. They'll give you $120 for free for a grand total of $220 to bet with on BetDSI if you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Cowboys120. All right, back to the rest of the schedule now. The final 4 weeks here. Again, remember, I got you around 5. Maybe you can get to 6 wins. I think that's a bit of a long shot, though, so I got him at 5 wins at this point. Versus Eagles Week 14. Oh, boy, that's not easy. But the rest of the schedule, yes, there are 2 road games. Colts, Bucks, and Giants, I don't think that those are good football teams. So maybe at that point, all of a sudden, you win your last 3 games to end the season, and then Jason Garrett finishes at 8-8. Wouldn't that just be classic Garrett? By the way, if the Cowboys miss the playoffs, even if they win their last 3 or 4 games, I don't see how you can bring back Garrett. So with that in mind, folks, what will be the Cowboys' record this season? Let me know in the comments section. I lean towards 8-8. I thought they could win 10, but honestly, I thought they were going to be 3-1 to start the year, not 2-2, maybe even 4-0. The schedule wasn't that daunting. So I lean more towards 8-8. Maybe you can get to 9-7, pull an upset somewhere, but I just don't believe in this Cowboys team enough to be a playoff team. But let me know in the comments section, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for our next Cowboys Report.